All right, I guess we'll get started. Good afternoon. My name's Brian Bissell. I am the program manager for the disaster relief here at Pacific States Marine Fisheries Commission. And we wanted to just take opportunity to kind of go over the 2021 Kuskokwim subsistence application to help alleviate any questions and hopefully lead to a positive experience for those applying. We didn't get any questions emailed to us before the meeting started, so we can spend some time at the end if anyone has questions, but I'm hoping that it'll be fairly straightforward. So for the subsistence relief, applicants should probably start by going to our main disaster webpage, and that's relief.psmfc.org. Once you're there, we kind of have some general information here at the top, and then depending upon what's going on with various different disasters we're administering, there may be a little brief here, such as there is for the Norton Sound and Kuskokwim salmon relief. So you can either access that page by clicking the link here, or current disasters, or you can click up here and go to current disasters. Lots of options. So we'll head to the Norton Sound and Kuskokwim salmon. And at the top here, some information for crew, followed by permit holders. But today our discussion will be focused on the subsistence application. So we have the requirements, here for those to review before they begin applying, just to, make sure that folks are aware of the criteria needed. But ultimately, this is where folks will need to start. So this will take you to our form site landing page. It's got a little bit more information here specific to the application. It opened on Monday, February 9th, and it will close on Tuesday, June 9th. And ultimately, you can either click right here for a new user account, or you can come down here and click new user account. So we will go through the process as if we are applying. So the first page of the application here has some general information. I won't read through all of it, but essentially what we will be collecting are the full legal names, social security numbers, and date of births, in addition to residence eligibility for each qualifying household member. And only those that are able to be successfully verified will be considered eligible. We do ask that you check, double check what you're submitting before you hit the submit button. You are able to log back into your application after you've submitted to make amendments. But the thought process is if you can do it correct the first time, that'll lead to quicker relief funds being mailed out. So after you submit, you will receive an auto-generated confirmation email. As long as you entered your email address correctly, it will go to your email. We've tested this countless times, and it's worked, without fail. So it's really important that you enter your email address correctly. At this time, we aren't certain when relief funds will be dispersed. We know when the application will close, but we can't predict how many amendments may be required. As folks are likely aware, the statewide salmon 2020 relief took almost a year and a half to get through. Just the overwhelming majority of applications received had some sort of issue with them. That's largely why we are moving to the electronic version, because theoretically you cannot progress through the application if you are missing information. And it's a lot easier for us to process that data, given we aren't manually entering and performing data entry ourselves. The applicant is providing that information to us. We understand that not everyone has access to computers or the technology needed to apply. However, in an effort to get these funds out the door as quickly as possible for those that are affected, this is kind of a trade-off. So we do highly encourage those that may not have access to, find a friend, family member, neighbor, um, library, perhaps, those at local ADF&G offices may be able to assist. But ultimately, we are only accepting applications through the form site portal. If there are any questions, can either contact ADF&G directly, or you can email the Alaska Fish Disaster program here. And while we do have phone numbers, at least I can speak for PSMFC, our current system only permits voicemails to be recorded, and then we have to listen to them and then call you back. So if it's an urgent matter, we do highly encourage folks to email us if possible. Another question that we receive frequently is if these funds are taxable. They are. And so we do report all funds issued to the IRS, to the federal government. And so those that received at least $600 a year from PSMFC and applied as an individual, meaning not as a corporation or a partnership or an LLC, but providing, your first and last name and your social security number. And again, if you receive $600, you will be issued a 1099 that you can use when filing your taxes. We do not offer any tax advice. We just aren't positioned to do that. So if you have questions about taxes and how this may affect them, we would encourage you to speak with the tax professional. This link here will click on it, takes you to ADF&G's website. They have their spend plan and the development of the spend plan, along with some additional information there. We encourage everyone to kind of read through that. So, really that's kind of the starting point and the framework for how we administer the relief. And so largely any questions that we can answer will be information from that document. So if you're curious and want to look it up yourself, save some time, we would encourage you to do so. Ultimately, here is all the criteria. This is very similar to prior relief in the CARES Act, as well as the statewide salmon relief. Everyone that is included needs to be an Alaskan resident. It's a key point. And they need to be verified by either a PFD in 2022 for calendar year 2021. They needed to possess or be eligible to have received an Alaskan sport resident fishing license in 2021. They needed to be registered as a resident with the CFEC in 2021, or they needed to have held a subsistence or personal use permit in 2021 for the Kuskokwim area. The applicant, meaning the individual that is applying for the relief funds and will receive the relief funds, must be 18 at the time of application. It is against the law for the commission to disperse funds directly to minors. And so, minors can be included in the household count, but a minor cannot be the individual that applies for the relief funds. This is standard stuff here. Applicants can't be debarred or on the federal government's do not pay list. And eligibility will be defined by an Alaskan household. And so right here we have our definition of household. It's defined as person or persons having the same permanent residence, and only one application may be submitted per household. One of the issues that we came across not only during the CARES Act, but during the statewide salmon subsistence relief, where there are numerous households in the state of Alaska that don't have physical addresses. And so it was extremely challenging for our staff to validate that only one application was being submitted per household. It's understood that, not every house has a 123 Main Street type address. Um, and most folks actually receive their mail at a PO box. However, we still needed to verify that only one application was being submitted. So if we received an application that might have said First and Second Avenue, First Street and Second Avenue, that doesn't really provide us with enough detail to validate that only one claim was being submitted. So this is largely the reason why relief took so long, not only for the CARES Act, but for the statewide salmon relief. And using this approach that we are pursuing this time around, we're hoping that it will mitigate for a lot of those issues. And then finally, the applicant must certify that one or more members of a household participated in a salmon subsistence fishery in at least 2 of the previous 4 years, 2017 through 2020, in the Kuskokwim area. And the applicant for the household must certify that their household has incurred a negative impact on their ability to access subsistence salmon fisheries in 2021 due to the disaster. So if you are able to respond positively to those statements, you would select yes. If not, unfortunately, you are not able to apply and or receive funds. So only those that can say yes to these statements may apply. Here, we need to have a good contact information in order to contact you if there are any issues that pop up. And so if there are issues with your application, our first contact will be email. Generally, we send an email. We expect it to be monitored as we are indicating on the application here. Ultimately, those that may not see the email, it's not a whole lot different than something going to a PO box and believing that it may be spam or trash, junk mail, whatever. We are communicating to the best of our ability, alerting people of issues, and so in order to expedite all these processes that have to unfold and get funds out the door as quickly as possible, email is going to be our first approach. In the past, if you did not provide an email contact, then we would phone you. And if a phone number was not provided, then we would send a letter. But using this electronic application, a phone number and a email address is required. And so, if someone is assisting another with an application, we would, encourage everyone to, kind of be in communication and alert them because their application may be, in a pending status if we can't get contacted with those folks. Household members, so including yourself as household member number one, the applicant, you would count how many people are in your household. So if it's maybe a typical situation of a married couple with 2 children, that would be four members, household members. And again, all of them need to have been Alaskan residents and meet the residency requirements that we already went over. So in this situation, for sake of getting through this demonstration, we'll just say 1, but you would enter however many people are in your household. So here, you might see something like this. And you would choose how you met the residency requirements that are outlined earlier in the application and on the spend plan. So for here, let's hypothetically say that we are a resident with the CFEC. And I should actually back up. So we, PSMFC, in conjunction with ADF&G and the CFEC and the permanent fund dividend folks, will be validating all of these entries. So everyone that says that they qualified with a 2022 PFD, we are going to in fact validate that to make sure that those folks were eligible based on that response. And if not, that would be a reason that we might have to contact you to seek an amendment. So here, this is where you receive mail, not where you physically live, but where you receive mail. And so, in this example, you can see here, not sure why this isn't working. It was working just a little bit ago. Well, don't have an explanation for that, but this should auto-generate the city and the state. I will investigate that as soon as we are done here today, because yeah, I don't have an explanation. But you would enter your information here, and then finally, these are some of the self-certifications. Um, Again, these are all required in order to apply for the relief. So everyone or the applicant has to be 18 years old. You have to be allowed to receive federal funds. You can't be on the do not pay list. Um, at least one person in the household has to have taken part in the subsistence fishing in the Kuskokwim area in at least 4 years between 2017 and 2020. And your household has to have been negatively affected uh, to access subsistence salmon. So you would select yes and sign this. And it's not going to let me go because um, the city is not auto populating. There could be an issue with the API for the site that helps provide this information. Um, and see here. I guess if folks have questions, they could write them in the chat, and I can do my best to answer those. Here. Let's see here. I might actually have either Carla or Darian help with these questions as well. I'm not sure what the first question is asking. Carla or Darian? There we go. Okay, so yes, Carla is responding that the fishery disaster is specific to the Kuskokwim management area, so only includes subsistence users on the Kuskokwim River. Excuse me. Uh, what if someone does not have an email address? Can a support person submit multiple applications for different households using the same email address? Yes. Again, this would kind of reiterate back to the fact that we do need an email address, and that is how we will primarily be communicating if there are issues. So in this scenario, if let's say someone at a tribal office is assisting multiple constituents with their applications, they would then be responsible for relaying that information to the individuals should there be any issues, because the way that we will reach out if there are issues is via the email address that is provided. Physical household locations are being verified. We are not verifying the physical address. We are verifying that no individual is being counted more than once, but you are attesting that only one application is being submitted per physical household. And how is the funding amount per household application being determined? It'll be determined the same way as prior relief. So households with 1 to 3 qualifying members are eligible for 1 share, and households with 4 or more household qualifying members are eligible for 2 shares. And so there's just a little over $568,000 available in total. And so at the end of the application period, and once we've gone through all of the amendments and finalized, those that successfully responded to amendment requests, we will total up the total number of shares for all participants, and then divide that number by the amount of funding, and then that will determine what 1 share is worth. And then again, those that had 4 or more qualifying members will receive 2 shares, whereas everyone else will receive 1 share. Carla and Darian, if you wanted to unmute, you're more than welcome to join in the conversation as well.
Yeah, as far as the question about personal use versus subsistence permits, those are 2 separate permits. So the personal use is for residents of rural communities, so that's how they're proving residency. So it's not something that's required, but it's an option that allows you to prove Alaska residency.
Great, thank you. Let's see here. How is participation in subsistence fishery being verified beyond self-certification? Well, as the spend plan mentions, participation includes harvesting, sharing, and/or using salmon subsistence fishery resources. Subsistence harvest does not require the use of a sport fishing license. Um, so, yeah, I mean, if you are a household that meets all of the qualifications outlined in the spend plan and in the application materials, and you're participating by either harvesting, sharing, and or using subsistence, salmon subsistence fishery resources, you would theoretically qualify.
This is Carla, and to answer Teresa's question about how is participation being verified, I believe it is just self-certification. Brian, were there other data that we were looking into verifying that information with? Sorry, I can't recall off the top of my head.
No, I mean, I believe it's primarily through self-certification that
Yeah.
you've met all the requirements. Is the number of household members the number that lived in the household in 2021? What if there are additional household members now, new children born after 2021? So yes, this is the disaster occurred in 2021. So the qualifying household members would be those that qualified in 2021. And again, see here, let me pull it back up. So, in order to qualify to be listed as a qualifying household member, they had to be eligible to receive the PFD in 2022 for 2021. So they would be born in 2021, possessed or eligible to receive a 2021 Alaskan sport resident fishing license. So again, born in 2021 or presumably much earlier than that. Resident with the CFEC in 2021, presumably much older than 20, born before 2021. And the same for subsistence or personal use permit. So yes, if they're born before December 31st, 2021, they would be potentially a qualifying household member. Those born after 2021 do not count. Will PSMFC create a social media flyer to widely distribute the information for the Kuskokwim River communities, including links to the application? No, we have not done that in the past. We do have all of the information on our website. We would recommend folks go to our website for more information. I know Darian does a great job of sending out emails with the ADF&G account. She has a mailing list, and so those folks have been alerted. And then specifically for this disaster, we took all of the email addresses that we had on file from the 2020 statewide salmon disaster relief, and anyone that had applied for relief under the Kuskokwim sector, we sent them an email earlier, I believe a couple of weeks ago, alerting them that this opportunity existed and how to apply and, to go to our website, et cetera, et cetera. So, we've done about as much as we can do to get the news, get the word out for those that may be interested in applying. But, and then of course, facilitating this today, we're hoping that those that are participating will help spread the word as well. Looks like Darian has agreed to create a flyer. So good idea, and thanks for doing that, Darian. And unless anyone has any other questions, that's really all that we were hoping to provide today. Great, and so folks are aware, we have recorded this meeting, and so we're hoping to post this on our website, as a tutorial of so to speak, for folks that may not have been able to participate, and they can watch/listen to it and hopefully have questions answered that way.
Yep. Brian, there was a question too about, and maybe you answered it and I missed it, about if someone doesn't have an email address.
Oh, yep, we answered that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So again, email is going to be our primary means of communicating to applicants should there be any amendment requests needed. And so again, if hypothetically someone in a tribal office is helping constituents apply for relief, by providing that email, they're assuming the responsibility to further relay that information to the applicant. Um, really the only reason that we would phone someone is if an email was kicked back. If someone were to have provided an email address that isn't working, or if they had a typo and it gets kicked back to us, we would then try and phone people. But again, the explicit intent is to communicate via email for the sole purpose of expediency. The quicker we can wrap up amendments, the quicker we can get funds dispersed to those that applied. And so if we're having to phone and have a phone conversation with every single person, then that really slows down the process and ultimately will lead to funds being dispersed at a much later date.
Thanks.
Yep. All right. If anyone has any follow-up questions, they can email akfishdisaster@psmfc.org. And again, all those contacts are on our website at relief.psmfc.org. And with that, I hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you, Brian.
Yep.